If I ever get stuck in a bubble, I want a bubble buddy.
Whoa! Hey!
What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. Getting the obligatory SpongeBob references out of the way. Today we are talking Netflix's brand new movie, and that is The Bubble. What kind of movie is this? We're going to talk about it. So, a group of actors and actresses stuck inside a pandemic bubble at a hotel attempts to complete a film. This film is rated R for language throughout, sexual content, drug use, and some violence. Not as heavy on the violence. It's mostly a behind-the-scenes type of thing, but I wouldn't say this is a family movie. Austin, you didn't answer my question. What kind of movie is this? Essentially, the way they want us to look at it as an audience, it's a satirical take on what it was like, or in this case is like, to make a movie during the pandemic, in the midst of having to separate, mask up, all of those things. So we are back to getting more pandemic-related movies. And I don't want to sit back and say I'm opposed to all the pandemic types of stories. I haven't really loved one of the films related to the pandemic so far, but if you can give us something that doesn't quite strike that nerve, or get under our skin in a way that puts us back in that situation, then I'm okay with that. And a great way to do that, in my opinion, is to play it satirically. Walk that line, but don't overstep your boundaries. Don't do it to a point to where it just kind of wears us out as we go. And to take a legit cast, someone like a Karen Gillan, Pedro Pascal, Leslie Mann, Fred Armisen, Iris Apatow, and directed by Judd Apatow, who just brought us The King of Staten Island, of course, bringing us movies like The 40-Year-Old Virgin and Knocked Up, classic comedy films. So that was my biggest anticipation going into this movie is it going to be funny? I think it is. I love Judd as a director. We got those first few teases, realizing it was releasing on April Fool's Day. Okay, what is this? Then we realize that we're getting the teases for the movie that the actors are making in the movie, but what this film actually is more so a behind-the-scenes look at how everyone is handling all of these pandemic circumstances, and occasionally in this film, we will cut to the film that they're actually making, and that film is Cliff Beasts. It's a great satirical name for a blockbuster that doesn't exist in our world, but could, if that makes sense. So we'll see these performers, these actors in front of this green screen. They'll be hanging by wires, giving us the most epic line delivery, and they actually do a nice job, even though the premise seems completely ridiculous. But then we'll yell cut. Something will go wrong. There will be circumstances in there that will frustrate them, and the longer we go throughout the movie, the more upset they get as performers and producers and writers, because this whole set has turned into chaos. It's a chaotic experience trying to make a movie in the midst of a pandemic. It's getting under their skin. The stress levels of our characters, they're going higher and higher. There's tension throughout the entire cast. Someone I didn't mention, Keegan-Michael Key, who does a great job at allowing us to see his stress levels raising throughout the entire production. But I look at this movie as a whole, and I think to myself, with all of these great ideas at play, with all of the comedy that could have came out of this movie, why did it fail on the level that it did? It doesn't feel like Judd Apatow, his type of humor that is normally smarter, way more subtle. Sometimes it tries to strike that nerve, but it always goes about it in such an interesting way. I mean, just looking at a film like The King of Staten Island, I love the subtleties and the nuances in that movie, giving us a somewhat emotional story, but always playing it for comedy, but in a way that brings out the most in the script. This script is one series of convoluted events showing us the behind-the-scenes look at what it was like to make a movie in those circumstances, and I understand they may be pulling from their experiences, bringing that to life, and of course, fabricating a lot of the drama that goes on behind the scenes here. I mean, we'll get intense romances that end in heartbreak. We'll get, actors and performers feeling like they're being held hostage in the midst of this movie set. They're making jokes like, well, Tom Cruise is making a movie. Why can't we make a movie? And some of those moments were funny. But when I look at this as a pure comedy, I wasn't really laughing hardly at all. Now, if you found the movie funny, you're going to end up enjoying it and you're going to feel positively about it. But the jokes falling flat consistently throughout the film with a cast this good. I mean, when you have Pedro Pascal and Leslie Mann going back and forth, you expect the humor to hit, but it just never did. Beyond that, you look at the actual story that's happening and cutting from room to room, seeing what these celebrities are going through, and it just wasn't that appealing to me. I wasn't connected to the story at all, and not one character has an arc that I was completely invested or interested in. So when we get a handful of these slightly emotional moments with the actors that always ends off with a joke, I'm not laughing at the joke. I'm not caring about the characters. The relationship doesn't matter to me. We go back to the movie set, and those scenes got less and less interesting as the film went on. It started out like kind of promising. I'm like, oh, this could turn into something interesting. But I never got invested. Therefore, I was just kind of like, okay, it is way too long. This should have been a tight 90-minute runtime because it almost feels like they're running out of story. Here's an issue I have. I've always loved Judd Apatow's films because they do a beautiful job of balancing comedy and drama, taking the seriousness of a comedic situation, and that's what you get yourself attached to, but you're laughing at the same time. This film does not have that balance at all. Before I give you my score, I'd love to know how you feel about this one. If you found something in it that I wasn't able to, hey, if you like this video, dropping that thumbs up is the best way to let me know. The algorithm appreciates it. Featuring a tonally confused script and a sequence of strange behind-the-scenes events, The Bubble attempts to bring about the humor of this situation. Unfortunately, Apatow can't quite nail the nuances that he has in the past. My score for this one is a disappointing 30%. I really wanted to like this movie, and normally these types of films, I can't appreciate it. This one just didn't come together for me, but I'm still looking forward to what he's doing next as a director. I really appreciate his work. So what did you guys think? Did you enjoy this? Is it the perfect April Fool's Day movie? Or April Fool's Day joke? Or is that Morbius? Let me know. That was mean. Let me know how you feel. Thanks, guys.